Okie dokie. Morning, everybody. This is Karen, and today I'm going to share my screen first of all. That would help. There we go. Okay. So this is our once a year annual leadership orientation for those who are new to one leadership group or another, and probably not a bad review for a lot of people who have even been around for a while. Okay. I have a couple slides in here just introducing the staff at headquarters so people realize the paid staff at ASPRS is pretty small. It's myself, I'm part-time, and Ray and Matt are the only full-time staff. And then we have contract staff that for the PENRS editor-in-chief, that's just changed to Ranjan Quinn. It was Al Maz for many years. And Bill Spillman, who helps us with some sponsorships and advertising. Hopefully everybody, well, again, some of you are new. So at EisnerAmper, our association management firm, we have Yuki, she's here today, and the person that we most often talk to on a daily basis. She's kind of handles all the traffic of communication for the most part. Danielle works closely with Mike Zoltek on processing certification applications. Matt McDaniel's our IT coordinator, so most of the time we're not communicating directly with Matt, but through Yuki to get to Matt for one problem or another. But Matt is available on occasion to consult with people if they have like specific needs with respect to the website. For example, right now he's working pretty hard with Ranjan on revamping the PENRS access. Melanie is the boss of all the other people at EisnerAmper. She's what we would consider like my equivalent, I suppose, there. We don't interact with her too much on a daily basis, but she is the other signature on checks. So she is keeping a close eye on things. Melinda is our accounts receivable and payable manager. And then Natalie, I don't think any of us really talk to Natalie very often, but we do. She handles things related to PENRS when people have claims for missing issues, and she takes care of the inventory of our publications at the storage unit. So those are the main people there. In terms of contact information, the official physical address that we're registered, our registered address as a corporation, is at the EisnerAmper headquarters building on United Plaza Boulevard in Baton Rouge, but the staff is actually in a different office on Quail Run, in a smaller office. So while we have that official physical address, and we have a PO box mailing address, because we've had some issues in the past of getting mail routed correctly from the United Plaza Boulevard over to Quail Run. So we established a post office box. If you're ever sending a check or anything important like of that nature to headquarters, send it to the PO box. And then of course we have a shipping address for packages. We established also one post office box for regions to use. I'm not sure, it was a request from Rocky Mountain region specifically. I'm not sure how many regions are taking advantage of this, but for example, for their bank statements, they wanted to have, rather than having it go to whoever the treasurer happens to be at that time and have those bank statements go to their home or physical address, they wanted to have like one common address that would function in perpetuity, essentially. So we do have that post office box for the regions. And as far as emailing anybody, you can email me directly always at kshuckman@asprs.org. I think a lot of you know that I also operate using that programs@asprs.org email address quite a bit when I'm doing things that are related to conferences and such, so it doesn't go into my personal mailbox. I do a lot of mail merge out of that. Programs at ASPRS.org. Be a good idea to make sure that you have that listed as a safe sender in your email, because I do send things that are, like I said, they do come through mail merge, and some filters seem to figure that out and block it. But then for everything else, anything else that you want to get in touch with anybody at all at headquarters, just send an email to office@asprs.org, and Yuki filters those and routes them to the appropriate people. Okay, so I'm just going to go quickly over the governance structure. And again, for a lot of people here, this is, you know this, but I think it's just helpful to go over it every once in a while and make sure we have all the right people listed in the right positions. So we are, sorry about this, I don't know how to turn off those notifications from Teams. So we are a tax exempt organization. We're incorporated in the state of Virginia. We're registered to do business in the state of Louisiana. And all our regions are also incorporated in Virginia. They're affiliates of the national organization, but they all have their own unique EIN numbers for the IRS that they can use for banking and other business purposes, that also identify them as being tax exempt under the national umbrella. We file their federal tax returns for them as long as they qualify for the 990N postcard, which means they have to have less than $50,000 in gross revenue. And we have an agent in Virginia that does all the annual corporate filings with the Secretary of State in Virginia for the regions as well as national. Our current board, as of the installation of officers at GEO Week in February, earlier this month. Oh, I have the people on the next slide, but basically the composition of the board of directors, sorry. There are 13 members of the board, 3 of which are non-voting. So the executive director, myself, the treasurer and secretary are appointed and non-voting. So the 10 voting members are the 4 officers that are essentially elected. The vice president gets elected and then goes through a rotation in each of these other officer positions over a 4-year period. And then we have 6 councils that represent basically where we roll up all of the rest of all the leadership groups, all the working groups, all the divisions, committees, and everybody, that all the different entities, regions, chapters, and so on, that are involved in the leadership and the governance of the society, get rolled up into one of these 6 councils, and each of the councils has one voting member representative on the board of directors. So yeah, all the rest of the leadership kind of branches off of these 6 councils. So the individuals that are in the positions for this year are Armour is our new president, Al Carlin's our president-elect, Steve Steinberg was just elected as vice president, and Bongana has progressed on to immediate past president. And then the committee chair, the councils all through one method or another that they self-determine how they select who their chair is going to be, who's their representative on the board. They figure out among themselves what their procedure is for selecting, appointing, electing that person. And I'll explain a little bit more about the composition of the councils in a few minutes, but it's Dave Day is the committee chair, council chair. Cody Condren is the new region officer council chair. Paul Bader is the sustaining member council chair. Ravi Sneha is the technical division director council chair. Jordan Hicks is the early career professional council chair, and Nancy Unio is the student advisory council chair. If somebody wants to tell me how to turn those Teams notifications off, just write it in the chat. I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so that's your board. Those are your 10 voting members of your board. Now, we also have, now we're getting into the little bit more into the detail of the structure. So we have two kinds of committees. We have two permanent committees that are established in the bylaws that we don't really talk about too much. I don't think you hear about them very often, but we have an audit committee that is supposed to do an annual financial review, and a governance committee that does, they have several different functions. You can read about this more in the bylaws if you want to know in detail, but the governance committee has, they have an ethics function. So if someone were to, we were to get a complaint about um, an ethics complaint against a member or a certified professional, the governance committee, which is comprising the 5 most recent past presidents with the immediate past president as the chair, they would adjudicate that. They have a policy and a procedure for doing that. The governance committee also has one. They review the bylaws every year to make sure that we have, we don't need any amendments to accommodate the way if we've made some adjustments in the way we do things. So they have that function, and they also are responsible for selecting the candidates for the coming year vice president candidate. Those are their primary tasks. And then we have these 8 standing committees, and you can see the list here. Hopefully everybody's pretty familiar with these committees and what they do. These people are all, the people that are on these committees tend to serve for a long time, because they're kind of the job that they do. It takes time to get familiar with, for example, doing all the awards and scholarships, certification, and so on. So these are the 8 standing committees, and the people who are currently the chairs of those. And like I said, each of these chairs of the standing committees form the committee chair council, and then Dave Day is their representative on the board of directors. So when Dave gives his monthly report on the committee chair council, he will supposed to be gathering reports from each of these committee chairs so that he can provide an update to all of us on what's going on, for example, in publications or awards and scholarships or what have you. You might note that our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Standing Committee, which is the newest of all of these, is currently, we don't have a chair right now. It was Amanda Aragon, and she has stepped down. So we're just going to let that committee go sort of dormant for a while until, if we have somebody that that feels passionate about this and has some sort of a goal or mission that they would like to try to accomplish with respect to DEI and ASPRS, we'd be happy to hear from you. In the meantime, we don't like to dissolve these standing committees because it does take, it's a specific action by the board that they have to be chartered, and it's just not very efficient to be dissolving and recreating them often. Any questions so far? Let me get my chat. Okay, let me see, right? The teams, I'll get that in a second. Okay, so divisions. I think most people you're probably most familiar with the divisions. We have 7 technical divisions. They're listed here. As hopefully everyone knows, these are elected positions. The members elect this leadership in every year's annual election. Some of these positions, the assistant division director position is open for election. That person gets elected as the assistant for 2 years, and then they ascend to the position of division director for 2 years. So these division director positions, these people are serving for 4 years at least. So this is a pretty big commitment, and we really appreciate all the work that they do. And this is 1 year we'll do, like this year we had an election for PDAD, PPD, and RSAD. They serve for, and those people will serve from this year, 2025 and 2026. Next year, this year upcoming, we'll elect new assistant directors for GIS, LIDAR, PAD, and UAS. So we stagger them so that all the division directors aren't changing over at the same time. Okay, then we have working groups. So working groups are probably where a lot of the actual work is getting done on various things like standards and these different efforts that we have. And they're a little bit more flexible. So the committees and divisions are established in the bylaws, and like as I mentioned, it requires them being chartered, and they roll up into those councils. That's kind of a more stable, permanent aspect of the leadership. Working groups can be created and dissolved sort of on an ongoing basis. And you can, hopefully a lot of you are either involved or familiar with one or more of these working groups, and you kind of understand how that operates. But in order to get them connected to the rest of the leadership and get them into the reporting structure so that there's accountability on the one hand, and we also have some like visibility and are able to support their efforts. We kind of attach them on the working groups either onto a technical division, if appropriate, or onto one of the standing committees. So here are a list of about half of the working groups that I know about right now that I believe are currently active, and I know who the person is in charge. For these working groups. So GIS, Mike Baranowski is already on the GIS CI exam development committee. He works with them. Many of you know that we just recently signed an MOU with them. So we need to build up this working group so that we're contributing individuals to help GIS CI with exam development. So this is a new one and needs to attract some interest parties. Under these three in LIDAR have been around for a while: airborne LIDAR, bathymetry, and LAS, of course. I think Evan might get the award for the longest acting working group with a single leader. He's been doing this for, I don't know, like 20 years or something, at least.
2015 or so. So 10 years.
Oh, okay. I thought it was longer than that. LiDAR density guidelines, you guys might have seen, we just published a document on LiDAR density that Matt was the primary herder of the cats on that one. This defense intelligence working group, I think they're active under PAD, but they're very stealth. I think they used to have more of a function when we had when we had our own annual conferences and we had NGA, a lot of NGA people. We would typically hold a classified session where people would from the conference who all had clearances would get on a bus and go to a facility, to a SCIF, to participate in a classified session. And I think this working group was very involved in that. I haven't heard much about them in a long time, but I know that when we went through cleaning up the social media sites, which I'll talk about later on, Todd Johansson kind of jumped up and said, hey, we're still out here, we're doing our thing. We just don't hear from them very often. So I think Hank, as the PAD director, might want to reach out to Todd and try to find out what exactly they are doing, so we get them a little more tied into the week to week, month to month reporting. Okay, oblique imagery standards. Maybe everybody knows that they've contributed to the positional accuracy standards. This digital twin consortium, this is a new agreement that we just signed, a new MOU with DTC, and agreed to have representation on each other's organizations. They became a sustaining member of ASPRS. Srini is going to be our representative to the Digital Twin Consortium. I think the primary area of interest right now, or the common goal, is to try to help in the area of standards, particularly where it comes to when it comes to the mapping data, the base mapping or the modeling data that is fundamentally part of a digital twin. I mean, there's a lot more to digital twin than what we do, but we do have an important place to contribute. And so that's just getting started. And I think Srini is going to be reaching out and looking for people that want to participate. Let's see, what else have we got? There is a forensics working group that's been off and on active under PPD. Toby Terpstra is the new, he's offered to take leadership of that recently, and we just heard from him in the last week or so, trying to get in touch with. There are about 15 people that have indicated an interest in doing expert testimony and such. So I think Toby's going to be getting that working group up and running a little bit better. Frank has been for a long time our liaison to NCWS on matters concerning licensure. And then we have a group, basically Ravi and Michael Detweiler under the UAS division, that have been the primarily responsible for putting on the workshop at the Commercial UAV Expo. Okay, so those are the division related working groups, and I apologize if I missed anyone. I kind of went through Higher Logic and I went through my rosters, and there were some other working groups that were listed there in name, but I haven't heard anything. I haven't noticed any activity. So if there are others, particularly you division directors, if we missed someone on this list, please let us know. On the committee side, under certification, we actually have 4 committees that handle that do the reviews of incoming certification applications. We've had just a little bit of turnover recently in photogrammetry. Frank Taylor's taken that over. The rest of these have had the same committee chairs for a long time. Under ENPD, we just formed a new working group that's going to collectively take care of our preparation for certification workshop, getting that updated and modernized, I guess we would say. And Al Carlin's kind of offered to be the champion of that working group. And the members of it are the people that from the regions that have applied to become instructors for the certification workshop at the region level. So we have about 5 or 6 of those people. So the idea is that, we have a lot of criticism and comments about our preparation for certification workshop, that it needs updating, that it's not, we're not addressing the most relevant topics of the day. So I'm hoping that if we get, it was the responsibility of one individual for years and years and years, and it's I think it will benefit from having a few more people involved in it. So more to come on that. And then I think everyone's aware of the positional accuracy standards, and COSM's standing up, and it's been around for a little while, but I think they're standing up their activities now. If any of you went to the sessions at Geo Week for the NSRS modernization. And we will, for both of these working groups, standards and NSRS, we've had outside non-member members of those working groups, from other agencies. For example, for NSRS modernization, we've got NGS people involved, and now I think some people from NSPS, National Society of Professional Surveyors, and others that are not ASPRS members, but they're kind of key to making these efforts successful. Let me see, I think we have one more page. Oh, so events. I've been talking about this in some of the weekly meetings. I think we need to, I was kind of the events committee chair for a long time while primarily taking care of Geo Week. but I think this is we've got enough going on in the events world that we really need to delegate and diversify a little bit. So I want to create actual working groups for each of these events. Geo Week obviously is recurring, Ezra UC is recurring, UAV Expo is recurring. Those are pretty well known at this point. I mean, the chair of this committee is more the person that takes care of the logistics, the planning, meeting deadlines, making sure everything's organized. But we definitely need some help with respect to, we want to change up the format of our virtual conference. This year we had some discussion about this after last year's conference. And I know that there's some people that indicated an interest in helping kind of revision this and put on a different kind of event for a virtual conference this year. So I put this in italics because I'm still trying to figure out exactly who wants to be in charge of this. So anybody out there that wants to help reinvent the online virtual conference, please let me know, and we need to start getting a plan together for this year for sure. I know that there are people that are interested in participating in the ASPRS Congress next year. Some of us in the leadership, just the officers, and Marguerite Madden and Charles Toth, who are our primary liaisons to ASPRS, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow to figure out what everyone's expectations are with respect to ASPRS in 2026 in Toronto. And then we have this UAS symposium in 2027 that is supposed to be a joint effort between the UAS division and the Pacific Southwest region. So these three in italics still need a little bit of building out of the working groups. Okay, any questions about any of that so far? All right, we have 13 geographic regions, and any member of ASPRS is by default assigned to be a member of the region that matches based on the zip code of whatever they've put in as their primary address when they create their member record. So we look at the zip code and then we map that to, we have a table that matches up zip code to ASPRS region. So that's the default assignment, although if you look in the bylaws, people can reassign themselves to a different region. If they desire, they can go into their IMS record and reassign themselves. And why do we allow that, or why does that make sense? Because some of these regions are pretty geographically large. For example, if you're part of the Mid-South region, which is this dark green that goes from Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama, you might be living over here right on the edge of Georgia, and it makes a lot more sense for you to connect with and participate with people in the Florida region. So you might just decide to assign yourself to the Florida region. So, and similarly, or people that get their primary addresses, work addresses in one region, but they live in a different region, or vice versa. So we do allow some flexibility there, but it's up to the member themselves to go in and assign themselves to the correct region in my ASPRS database. Otherwise, they're just going to be listed and be assigned to the region of their zip code. We also have an at-large region, which is everyone else. It's not in the US. And this is color-coded based on the number of members that we have in each of those countries. We have a couple of geographic chapters. These are allowed in the bylaws where, in a large region, for example, North Carolina has had their own chapter within the Potomac region for years. They have their own board, they have their own bylaws. They basically, they're a sub-entity of their region. I only know about 2 of them right now. And again, historically there have been a few others out there, but we don't hear from them, don't really know what's going on with them. So if this is an incomplete list, this should be kind of managed by the Region Officer Council. They should be keeping track of who the chapters are within each of the regions. And then finally, almost finally, we have now 24 student chapters. This number doubled from last year. And they're, again, the student chapters, they have a host region. So depending on where they are geographically, they are supposed to be being mentored by and kept track of by their host region. And the regions get credit for the keeping track of the activities of their student chapters when it comes to region awards. So, but we've doubled the number of student chapters in the past year, which is great. And I think we're looking to try to create some more student chapters in regions that don't have too many. I think almost every region has one now, at least, except maybe northeastern. I think the rest of them, well, maybe not Western Great Lakes, but we're getting there. So this is great. Really a big area of growth within the organization. And then this is our the list as of today, I think. Yuki's here. Yuki and I have been working on this list. They're sustaining members. I think we have 29 right now. We did have the Sustaining Member Council had a meeting at Geo Week, and we invited some of the MAPS members to come to that meeting, and we talked about having a closer relationship with MAPS, where I think we have a larger pool of companies that we might attract to become ASPRS sustaining members. So I don't know if Paul Bader's on here today. I don't see him on the list. Oh yeah, he did let me know he had a conflict today. But we are actively trying to grow this list of sustaining members around some of the hot topics of implementation of the positional accuracy standards is one area where I think there's a lot of potential in work to do with the sustaining member community. And then the other is in the matter of certification. Again, the sustaining members are the ones that probably have some of the largest vested interest in the certification program, because those are they want their employees certified. So we need their input. We need their help. Oh, Yuki, did you see McKim Creed is missing from the sustaining member list? Maybe she can catch that up. Thanks, Robbie. Yeah, so we're going to try to engage the sustaining members again around those 2 topics: positional accuracy standards, implementation of outreach, education, so on, and helping us improve the certification program to help it better meet their needs. Okay. All right. So that's the overview of the organization, who all the sort of the hierarchy, the tree, so to speak. How I want to talk a little bit about how we keep track of everybody and how we communicate. So many of you know we have this platform called Higher Logic. The base URL for Higher Logic is community.asprs.org. We're working toward integrating this more closely with the www.asprs.org website. That is supposed to get ported over onto the same server in the near future. Those will be a little bit better integrated, but within these, the community.asprs.org, what's the word I'm looking for? Ecosystem or something. Every governance entity, every one of those entities that we went through, the divisions, the councils, the committees, and working groups, have their own communities within Higher Logic. And it's up to them then to build out their content. So eventually, when we do port over the ASPRS.org website, when someone goes to the menu and clicks on Primary Data Acquisition Division, they're going to go to the public-facing microsite that is maintained by PDAD in the higher logic community infrastructure. So I know some of these here. I can skip down here. So this is just in the list of communities. You can see like ECPC has a ECPC has a community, Region Officer Council, all of these divisions and committees. Each of them have their own their own community where they can have ASPRS members or others sign up to follow their activities and get engaged in conversation. And then they also can create a public facing website. So here's an example, the Gulf South region. Every one of these public facing websites, the microsites we call them, for all of these entities, Matt McDaniel, our IT manager, maintains the roster that appears on the homepage. So these people, where it says is meet our 2024 board, this gets populated from the master roster that we keep at headquarters, that we try to keep updated based on regional elections and so on. That gets populated by Matt McDaniel, but then everything below that, all of the pages that are hang off of this website are created by the region web administrator. Any questions? Okay. We do have this meta community called the ASPRS Leadership Community. And basically, everyone who is listed anywhere as now in the leadership of a working group, the chair, the deputy chair, any voting member of a council, the student advisory council, the region officer council, and so on. Those people who are officially the members, the listed members of all of those entities, get rolled up into this ASPRS leadership community, which does have its own website and web pages. And we'll look at this a little bit more. You have to be logged in and recognized as a member of the leadership to get to this. But if you are, all of you should be, and you can go to community.asprs.org/leadership restricted. You log in, you should be able to see this menu. And here we have a lot of, I'll show a lot of these pages in more detail, but this is where we have a lot of the leadership resources. Okay. So again, getting into the communities requires a MyASPRS login, and we can control access to different pages based on the status of the person's MyASPRS account. So we can, a MyASPRS account, anyone can create one as a guest. You don't have to be a member. That just gets you into our database. You can get on a mailing list. If you can register for an event, buy a book, whatever it is you want to do. You create a MyASPRS guest account. That gets you a login, and then if you are a member, you get a higher level of access to the communities. So as soon as a person logs in with their MyASPRS account, it knows whether they're an individual member, a student member, a non-member, and then it gives them, like I said, it gives them appropriate access. It is important for everybody who's a member of leadership to have a complete and accurate MyASPRS profile. You saw on this page, for example, these little widgets that came up. When Matt lists all the individuals who are a member of the board of this region, he can get their, we can get their name up here and we can put a widget up here, but you have to go in there and add your photo to have it show up here. And you can also control, if someone clicks on your name, the level of information that is visible. So this is all controlled in your My ASPRS profile. I have a little tutorial that tells you how to create and manage that. So you can just click on that link, and it's actually a short video that explains it. So if you're a member of the leadership, bottom line is please make sure your My ASPRS profile is up to date and that it's up to date. And put a picture in there. As far as email, we get a lot of questions about this, but I think people are getting everyone's getting more educated about this. We only can maintain one email address per person that we need to communicate with. And I know I myself have, an RRC email, an ASPRS email, a Penn State email, a personal email. Many of you also have multiple emails. We can't keep track of more than one email per person. It's already hard enough to do what we have to do. So you need to make a choice about which email you want to receive all of your ASPRS information, and make sure that email is designated in your My ASPRS account. That is the only address that we're going to use to communicate with you. We create, as I'll show you in a minute, we create some email distribution lists, like aliases that will go to, for example, Region Officer Council or the Student Advisory Council. We maintain those, and again, we try to keep those synchronized with the My ASPRS accounts. It's not automatic. So if you update your email address in your My ASPRS account, it might take us a little while to get that synced up with the distribution lists, but Yuki maintains all of that. We try not to share anyone's individual email address. So also don't ask us to please give me an email list of everyone. Give me the email addresses of everybody in my, who went to my event. If you will maintain that information internally, and if you want to send a message to people in your region or people in your working group or people in your committee, send that message to Yuki, and she'll send it out in such a way that the individual email addresses don't get shared. So yeah, please try not to make a bunch of your own email address lists using individual addresses. For example, Greg Stensis had a list of like 600 people he was sending emails to when he was the PDAD director. And over time, the email addresses change. Those people, they come and go as far as whether they're members of ASPRS or not. So it took us a long time to kind of Evan had his own LAS working group email list. We've tried to consolidate all those and get those people registered within My ASPRS and be associated with the communities so that we can send emails out to them and have them be accurate. And we know who's an ASPRS member and who isn't. We also don't want people to create email addresses externally, like Gmail accounts or Yahoo accounts for their region or committee, because when that person who owns that email account has the username and password goes away, then we have no way to retrieve any of that information. So again, if you change your email, change it in My ASPRS and let Yuki know so she can make sure it gets updated on the distribution lists. If you have a leadership change in your group, like in the region board or student chapter board or what have you, notify your council chair and Yuki, and we'll get that updated on the roster. And then I have couple of these these are off this leadership restricted website that I showed you. There's a couple of key pages that I wanted to point out. The calendar, the leadership rosters, and the weekly meetings. So let me start with rosters first, since we've just been talking about that. So these rosters are maintained, the master rosters I maintain on Google Drive. They are Excel spreadsheets. I have this, well, the master roster is not a good example, but okay, this one has everybody who's listed as a member or a board member of all the councils, divisions, committees, and so on. So this is kind of the master org chart. Let's look at region board rosters, for example. The regions have to continually keep us updated. We keep track of who not all the regions have the same board positions, so we have to keep track of that. We have to keep track of when their terms begin and end, who they are, and whether or not their membership is current. So this is kind of an elaborate system of Excel spreadsheets that I keep. And we look at this on a monthly basis in the region officer council meeting. But again, you could look at any time and see like who the region officers are for the Heartland region or the North Atlantic region, Pacific Southwest region. Oops, let me see, let me go back to that again. The rosters page, hold on. There you go. Oh, what did I do? Sorry. Oh, come on, Karen. Wait a minute. Let me just do this. There we go. Okay. Similarly, we have the student chapter boards, the division directors, and I hadn't quite gotten to updating the sustaining member council roster and the committee chair council roster, but these links are all here. They're on this leadership website. They're all, you can't edit these spreadsheets, but you can view them. So if you want to know in detail who's who or who's listed, this is a place to go to find links to those spreadsheets. We also have, this is a list of all the different email distribution lists that we maintain. So if you want, you want to send an email to the board, use ASPRS board@asprs.org. If you want to, these are all the different aliases that we maintain. That's, as I said, Yuki has to do this kind of manually. So this isn't linked to IMIS directly. But anyway, you can find what these email aliases are here. And then we also have a couple of the form for applying for an ASPRS certification workshop that's listed here. Any other like resources like that or things that I want the leadership to have access to, but we don't really necessarily want to have them out on the public website, I try to put them here. Okay, so that's an important page to keep track of. Let's see. The weekly meetings. So these 11 o'clock Wednesday meetings that we have, most of you know, it's the same Zoom link every week. We try to keep the copies of the meeting notes in a Google Drive folder, so you can click there to find notes from past meetings. And then we have this rotating schedule where the first Wednesday of the month is the Region Officer Council that Cody Condren will be leading that meeting. Then the president leads kind of a brainstorming session on the second Wednesday of the month. We get a report on the technical division activities on the third Wednesday, and all the standing committees on the fourth Wednesday. So you can see that schedule repeats every month. And then when there's a fifth Wednesday in the month, I just call it a wild card, and we just usually have something useful to talk about, be it an event or current events, whatever happens to be. So the meeting schedule is also here on the website, and you can look at it at any time. You can see who's in charge of the meeting, and the Zoom link is there. So that's another important page. And in addition to the weekly leadership meetings, a lot of the these entities like the LAS Working Group or the LIDAR Division or PDAD, they have regular monthly meetings, the Education and Professional Development Committee, on and on. Those meetings get scheduled, the Zoom meetings. Yuki, if you want to schedule a repeating meeting you want to have a, remote sensing division directors meeting on the third Thursday of the month. First of all, you can look at this calendar to see when other meetings are already scheduled. So you're not scheduling on top of something that's already existing. You can kind of figure out where you want to be, and then you can let Yuki know, and she'll go in Zoom and she'll create the recurring meeting. So it'll have its own unique Zoom URL. And as soon as that gets done in Zoom, that does automatically get synced onto this calendar. So in theory, all of the repeating you can see region meetings, division meetings, committee meetings, so on and so forth, are on this calendar. And you can find it if you go to that leadership community calendar page. I think if you click on the meeting itself, you'll get the Zoom listing that gives you the URL. Okay. Any questions about that so far? All right. Let's see, what else have I got here? Just a little bit of vocabulary. When we talk about who a member is of a council, division, or committee or working group, we're talking about the voting members. So the members of the Region Officer Council are the 2 elected, appointed officers from each region that form the voting members of the council. So that's different than having just an interest group or individuals with my ASPRS accounts who want to follow or participate or contribute to society activities. Like they want to be part of a working group or they want to follow what's going on in a division. They're community members as opposed to leadership members. So just clarify that. A lot of times I'll get a request from somebody to say, can you please send me a list of all the members of the remote sensing applications division? We don't have a way of knowing who those people are. Like there is no, when someone joins ASPRS, they don't join a division or a committee. We only can keep track of who the leadership people are. But through these higher logic communities that we've created, individuals with my ASPRS accounts, be they members or non-members or whatever, can choose to follow the community, and you can while they don't have any kind of external mailing list, the people who are administrators of the leadership groups can communicate with the community members through higher logic. So if you want to know the details of this, it's a little more than I can go into, and we only have 5 minutes here, but there are people out here, for example, Evan has mastered this on behalf of the LAS working group. I know some of the divisions are using this as well. If you have any questions about because we're not going to share email lists with anyone, if you want to know how to reach out to your community members, those people who are interested in your activities, just get in touch with Yuki and she'll help you understand how to use higher logic to do that. Okay, what was the last couple? I have some more stuff here and we only have a few more minutes. So let me go kind of quickly. I think just everyone please read the bylaws. So you'll understand a little bit more of the nomenclature and so on. Here's the link. These are the chapter headings, or the section headings, but does deal with how all of these different entities are created and what the rules are, essentially. There's some specific nomenclature, I guess, council, I already explained what the councils are. When we say committee, we mean one of the permanent or standing committees. Divisions refers to the technical divisions. Working groups, I explained that. We don't have such a thing as a subcommittee. There is nothing in the ASPRS structure at all that is called a subcommittee. So it's either usually a working group or it could be a task force. Let's say the president just assigns a particular group of people to work on one specific task. It'll be referred to that way. We have on our SharePoint site, and there's a index to it on the leadership website to get to all the different governance documents. You can see there are a lot of things that don't have links here because we haven't not necessarily completed. Every division and committee does not have operating procedures, but at least some of the higher level documents are here. You can find them. Let me see. One last important thing I want to go, well, two things. This branding, identity, logos, social media. This is important. In the bylaws, it was any division, council, committee, or what have you that wants to create a logo or a social media presence needs to do it in accordance with the society policies for that, which basically say that all sites that are created in the name of any ASPRS leadership group, it has to be owned by headquarters. Yuki has to create it for you because that's the only way that we can make sure that we keep control of them over time if we lose, a key person. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that, Yuki she creates all of those groups. They're all named according to a naming convention. And then she can assign designated members to be administrators. So while headquarters has to own it, as soon as she assigns an administrator, then that person can post and share and control the content. So if you want to create any social media site, contact Yuki and she'll set it up for you and give you the appropriate privileges. Likewise with logos, if you want to create a logo for your group, we have some guidelines on how to do that. Matt Austin is our publications graphics design person. So if you have just a concept that you'd like for your logo, for example, here we've got the Student Advisory Council has a little cap. Cascadia region has a tree. Cal State Fresno has their bulldog paw print. You can just give Matt a concept and he'll work it up so that we're using the correct colors and fonts and so on, and it meets the aspect ratio guidelines so that we can, plug these different logos into our PowerPoint templates and documents as needed. Let's see. Oh, my favorite, ASPRS spells LiDAR as a word. We try not to use the acronym spelling in any document that is put out there as an ASPR, any kind of an ASPRS endorsed document. Okay, so I have like half a minute left. I already covered the whole weekly meeting rotation. We also have a weekly newsletter that normally goes out on Wednesday afternoon. It gets sent to everyone in our ASPRS database. So that's not just members. It goes to anyone at all that has a My ASPRS account. So it could be a lapsed member, an inactive member, non-members, somebody that just came to a conference. So what goes out in the Wednesday newsletter is really public. If you have an item that you would like to submit to the newsletter or send it to Yuki, if you could send it to her by Monday, that would be helpful so that she can prepare it and get it included in the announcement that goes out, the newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. If you want to send an email blast to some subset of those people, like you want to reach only the emeritus members or only the student members or only the Potomac region members, we can do that as well. We can filter by any field that's in the database. Again, just send the copy to Yuki a couple days in advance when you want it to go out, explain who you want it to go to, and she will take care of that for you. I mentioned scheduling repeating meetings. We have 3 Zoom accounts. We have one that we can use to host webinars. We have 2 that are just regular meeting accounts. We'd like everyone to be using the ASPRS Zoom accounts as much as possible. And again, if you want to set up a Zoom meeting, either one time or recurring, contact Yuki. She'll set it up. It'll appear on the calendar. You'll get the link, and you should be good to go. And finally, we do have a Google Drive account where we use Google Drive to for all of our shared documents because it's a little more accessible than something like SharePoint when we have people that are not members of a specific organization. So yeah, we really would prefer people not be keeping their ASPRS work documents for committees and so on external file shares. For example, in the early days before we had this really up and running, the former Student Advisory Council chair set up had a whole lot of material on her like a Google account that was associated with her university. She's gone. We can't get in touch with her. We have no way to clean up any of that information or get at it or what have you. So we would really prefer you do not do that. If you need help navigating Google Drive or you need to establish certain permissions for Google Drive, again, we can help you do that, but we just want to keep it all under the Office at ASPRS account so we can keep track of it all. Okay, so that I'm only 3 minutes over. The PowerPoint is available. I have the recording, so I'll make the recording available, such as it is. And any last questions?